Assalamualaikum. Now we're going to do this explanation first. I'm going to show you the design first, then I'm going to do an explanation, and then I'm going to do the cutting. Okay, so this is a garara. A garara is really a maxi dress, but is split into two different legs. Rather than having like a full skirt, it's more like a trouser cut. Okay, the layers on this maxi dress is a longer layer with gathers going up to just past the knee area, and then from the knee to the thigh area is another smaller version of pleating, and then it's got from from the knee area to the thigh area, and then from the thigh up to the waist is the fitted area of the trouser. With this is on chiffon, so you can make this on net or whatever fabric you want to use, but because we've done this one on a chiffon, then what we require is a inner leg. So the inner leg portion of this is sewn like a trouser, and then the trouser is overlaid with this very wide care, almost like a maxi dress, finished off with a border trim of about 2.5 inches in the same fabric as the dress. Okay, so that's the description of the trouser, and I'll go on to explain exactly how much of fabric I used, and then we'll go on to cutting a further one of these. Now, when I did the initial making of this one, I was very rushed, so I didn't have time to do the tutorial. But in a way it's better, because then what you've got is I find it difficult to go backwards. I could sew the garment and then do the videos and do the explanation in the end and then attach them, but I don't know, all that is a bit of a headache. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain, since this one's made, we're going to take the explanation from this, and then we're going to go on to copy this. Now the dress itself, it's like a jacket coat, but it's like an A-line, and it's wider at the bottom, narrower and fitted on the chest area, upper bust sort of type area. It's got a high backed neck, but it's wide, and then it's filled in with this matching sort of a layered chiffon. I've put chiffon sleeves in the peach in this. The piece has been cut and layered with piping, and also it's an open shirt, so it's got piping at the sides. It's got the piece inserted at the back, and also it has splits and a stand-up type of a neckline that actually extends from the front all the way to the back. So that's basically the description. Now I'm going to be making a further one of these jackets. Slight bit of a difference that I'm going to make is that I'm going to make it a marginally touch shorter than this one. But apart from that, we're going to keep exactly to the same principle as this. So going on to explaining these two items that we're going to be stitching. Okay, so first of all, we're going to take what I want you to do is really create a miniature version of this, and the way we're going to do this miniature version, and then we're going to fill this miniature version with the what's it called, with the measurements. Okay, so what I'll do is, if I get a marker, and perhaps you can see with the marker a little bit better, so let's get a bit of something to lay this on. Okay, we'll lay it on top of this. Now this, you imagine that this is your piece of fabric, 1.25 wide, and length is whatever. Okay, and we're going to take the measurements and we're going to cut this. So what we have is, we have the neckline, the shoulder, the armhole, no, wrong, I've gone and cut it wrong. I've shaped it wrong, to be honest, because this is quite straight. So first thing we want to do is we want to, now the way I'm going to cut this, you imagine this is the grain of the fabric, and the fabric's been folded in half. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the cut for the neckline. Okay, then we're going to create the cut for the armhole. Okay, then that's the area for top of the so you imagine that that's for the neckline, that much you want to leave excess, that's for the armhole, that's for underneath the armholes, and then that extending to the bottom is going to be the, so you imagine that we use this much fabric, okay, and then all this fabric over here you will have excess. Okay, so basically when you cut something like that, when you cut something like this, and you cut it double, what you're going to get is two pieces that are going to be like such. Okay, you're going to get two pieces like this, and this is the fabric that you've got left over. Now we're going to try and cut from this. We're going to use, you know, that's the original cut that this has come out from. So you imagine that to just go forward, take that forward, and you're taking some of this excess out. So you know, this amount of fabric you're sort of taking out to shape this from, you've just gone a little bit further up, and then you're curving this out. So these same pieces where the fabric has come out from, now you're going to add this back up. And once you've added this back up and you've got a slight bit of excess there, you can trim that away. And you can trim this away either way. You can, well, you're better off trimming it up from the bottom. But I would say leave excess so that you don't run short. And that we can even out once we've gone and, you know, attach this on, because there'll be a certain amount that you will take in on the seaming and then attach on the other side as well, and, you know, take away this excess, and you've got the basic shape of your A-line, and, you know, that's basically done. Now the top area where we've left this portion excess, that is going to turn around and attach to the other side, and you can measure how much of that is going to attach to the back of the dress, and you can take away that excess. Okay, so that's like your rough template. What I would suggest is create a template like this, and this miniature template, I mean, you can mess around with a piece of paper and cut around to your heart's content until you get something that resembles something like this, and then you need to take the measurements of whoever you're making it for and transfer them onto this paper replica. So what we're doing is, say if this design was for me, what I would do is I would take my full length from the top to where I require that dress to and write on this piece of paper. Then I would take the measurement of the bust line and I would write that on, you know, if I was to write it in half, then if I was just going to create just one per you know, side, then I would have that measurement, and this is just the front bust measurement. If you wanted, if you were going to do the whole, then remember that you are dividing it into 4, and you are, when you've divided it into half, I'm trying to think, well, alternatively, what you can do is just take your bust measurement on the front, of the front only. You know, if you find that, I mean, like with children's case, it's really just divided by 4. With adults, your front bust portion will be slightly larger than the back, so make sure to take that into consideration. Okay, then these aren't very fitted, remember. It's more of an A-line, but make sure that you compensate that for that you slightly decrease it, but it's not fitted, so you don't really need to worry. I mean, if you do it on the bust measurements, what you can do is with the shape of this, you can slightly take it in, or you can slightly take it in even from this, you know, just to create like a more of a fuller bust on there and more of a fitted line. It's a little bit difficult to explain. Okay, also you want the depth of the neckline, and this area, that what you are leaving on top excess, for an adult, it's most likely that you want to cut about 3 inches in excess, 3.5 inches, maybe go 4 inches excess, and then you can always minus that. You should by now, if you've been sewing for a while, you should be familiar with what the armhole cut should be. Depending on the size, also take into consideration just how much you want, you know, like if I show you Inaya's back, how much you want this area to be. So, you know, take these things into consideration, and then you want to basically just mark it to where you want the splits to and what the length of the splits are. Also how wide you want the gear to be, because it's got a very full skirt, you don't want it to be too fitted at the top and then just flaring out. So this is like creating more of like a going from, you know, it's creating more of a like a shape rather than going from one extreme to the other, whereas you've got something which is like, you know, you've got those two extremes. One, you've got an angled out, you know, going all the way, and the other one you've got a tight, then you've got quite wide. So I prefer the A-line look to that, and that's the reason why. So that's a sort of like explanation of the jacket, and when I go on to cutting, I will explain this even more so that you can understand fully what I've tried to, you know, don't forget these are without patterns, and this is without working with any real, I'm trying to really simplify it as much as possible so that you understand what it is that I'm trying to, you know, get across. Okay, right, okay, so we're gonna go for the trouser. Now with the trouser, what you have is a piece of paper. and get 2 pieces of paper. So for the first portion of the trouser, what I've done is a slight bit of an angled fabric, and this is a very controversial cut that you may have seen in one of my videos where I've done this type of a slightly bent angled cut to cut a trouser. So the kind of cut that I've done on this trouser goes something like this. And I call this the pajama cut. I call this the pajama cut, and the way it works is the way this cut generally works is I would cut it deeper at the back. So in actual fact it would look something like this. It would look something like this. That's the back, this is the front, that's the inside leg, and when folded over it's slightly at an angle, and when you join this to the front 2 sides and that to the back, and when you're wearing this it will give you more room at the back and it will give you a better look, and that's the kind of cut that I've used as the lining. So you know, if this was if you were using a piece of fabric to cut this, what you would do is you would be taking that portion away, you'd be taking that portion away, you'd be taking that portion away. So on a piece of fabric, you know, you're taking far more away from the back area, back panel of the salwar than you are from the front, and it's like a kind of an angled cut. So for the lining of this particular dress, that's the kind of cut that I am using. Okay, secondly, we've got the panels. So basically what I've done is the width of the fabric, I have cut 2 panels, and then for the second one I've measured you know, where each of the panels are coming, and I think I've explained this one in the last video. Now when I've come to stitch all this, you know, the actual panels used, for the bottom one I cut double the amount, for this one I cut a single. This was a 60-inch wide chiffon. So here I've cut 2 panels which were, I mean, if you've got somebody who's same age as like 15 inches, so in total I cut 4 pieces of 15 inches. Then I cut, of the same 60 wide fabric, I cut 2 panels which were approximately 6.5 inches. Then for the top portion I've basically cut about a 10-inch, about a 10-inch piece, a 10 maybe 11-inch piece for the top. The cutting of the top one is similar to what that is. You just imagine that the upper portion's cutting is similar to that. So whatever you cut for your lining, you minus that. Basically what you have for this trouser is you've got two joints. So you've got this area for your top one, you've got one set of gathers, and for this one I cut two pieces for each of the side. For this one it's just one piece each, and the length of this piece, it should be measured from the bottom from the foot area to just above the ankle, and then for this one it's just above the not the ankle, what am I saying, just above the knee. Sorry about that, my mind is wandering off. Just above the knee, and then from just above the knee to the thigh, and then from the thigh to the waist is the actual measurement of the lining. So what you can do is cut out the lining first if you wanted. I did it the other way around, but just if it's easier for you. Now I'm going to follow this exact same method to cut in the next video. We're going to be cutting the panels for the dress and also the panels for the garara. So I hope this method you're able to perhaps listen to it. I know some of you may find I'm trying to talk and I'm trying to explain. I'll tell you, I'm one of those people, right? Without explanation, I can carry it out. And then trying to explain to someone how to go about doing what you've done without any explanation, there is a difficulty in that. But please bear with me and try and watch the video and try and understand it. Even if you're like seeing the actual thing, maybe sometimes it works better if you see the actual garment being made and then figure out, okay, this is what she did at this time. Work it backwards, and however it works for you. None of us are trained as perfectly to carry things out like this. Many of us are just learners, and we learn as we go along. Often you would see me do things which I have never done, and or something will go wrong, and I will salvage from that little bit of wrong. I would try and fix it. But having said that, each one of these is a proven method. So if you saw this particular dress being made, or some of it being made, and you found me make a mistake, then however the mistake was made, I went on to rectify that mistake and to perfect it, and the end result is what counts. So even if you go and make a mistake, or even if it's an not tried method, unconventional method of doing something, as long as it works for you, as long as it worked for me, that's fine. It's only normally an unconventional method sometimes doesn't work for everyone, but you try that method, and then by trying that method, some good will come out of it, because you know what, you learn yourself that she's gone and made this mistake, you know what, I can do it better. I can actually having looked at that, I can do it in a way which makes it easier. So I'm not saying I'm like perfect and I can do it all. There's probably lots and lots of mistakes that I make. The thing is though, that having made a mistake, it doesn't stop me from stop me in my tracks and then not do the thing. And that's the whole beauty of having the courage to do things, is that it doesn't stop you, it doesn't hinder you, and you go on to complete something. And alhamdulillah, that has never stopped me, and hopefully that will never stop me in the future either. And I hope it's a learning thing for you that you go on to learn and put into practice. It's always wonderful and brilliant when you meet people. Yesterday I was at a wedding and I had a couple of people coming up to me, and it was quite embarrassing actually. One of the girls came up to me and she says, "Are you Auntie Dilpasand?" And I was like, yes, I'm Auntie Dilpasand. It's quite embarrassing when somebody says to you, "Are you Dilpasand?" I don't know if I'm Dilpasand. We have to understand what Dilpasand means. It's what the heart likes. So I do hope genuinely that you all watch and enjoy the videos, and benefit from them. That's the whole point. The videos are there not to entertain you, not to waste your time, but to actually encourage you, to inspire you, to teach you, and to motivate you. And if you get motivated by the videos, if you get inspired to do, and that was wonderful, because having talked to her for quite a while, she was saying my morning starts after watching you. And you know, that is so nice to hear from people who watch you and who enjoy and who learn. And then she was happy to show me her daughter's outfit that she'd done, and she you know, she was a wonderful girl. She was telling me how much she'd learned, and you know, that made my evening, because you spend hours in front of the camera and you sometimes think, what the heck am I doing, you know, especially like on this outfit. I was there like middle of the night trying to make this, and then an hour before the wedding I was panicking because there was something that I did and I went and did it wrong, and I had to unpick and redo, and I thought, what the heck am I doing? She's got so many clothes, why does she have to wear this? But you know what, it was like I got a buzz. I got a buzz out of her dressed up in something really nice, and something that I'd created, and especially created it sort of there and then, and nobody had seen it. My mom has a go at me. She says, she's got so many clothes, why do you have to keep making more and more for her? Well, she's my little model, and you know what, it's my way of using her to show off my talent, I suppose, and inspire others. And having said that, it's always wonderful to see your children, your grandchildren, your loved ones dressed up nicely. So I'm going to show you now what I'm going to be using, what fabric I'm going to be using to make the outfit, and then the kind of measurements that we're going to be using for that.